And when Elijah offered his sacrifice, a fire descended from heaven and burned the sacrifice. So the people of Israel tend to know that Elijah, he is the real prophet of God.
According to John. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother, and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciple he loved standing near her, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then to the disciple he said, "This is your mother." And from that moment, the disciple made a place for her in his home. The Gospel of the Lord. Praised be Jesus and Mary, now and forever. Given the night we've had, I won't take it personally if anyone falls asleep during the homily. But, no, here we are on Mount Carmel, on a place proverbial for its lush vegetation. The Bible speaks of the riches of Carmel, and in order to express the most profound devastation, speaks of even Carmel being sterile. And besides being known for its lush vegetation, its rich life, it is a place of prayer and of solitude. It is a place where we find Elijah, a place where the hermits of Carmel lived for so many years. And these two elements, abundant life and prayer, are two things that point to the Blessed Virgin, who was and is the model of Carmelites. Thus this what we said in the responsorial psalm, which draws on the Canticle of Canticles, on the Song of Solomon, and calls on the Virgin Mary to draw us after her, that we may follow in her footsteps. The Carmelites wish to follow in the footsteps of the Virgin Mary, and also of Elijah, of course. And in this little cloud that was, the little cloud that was in that first reading, Our Lady is prefigured. What was this cloud? This cloud is the first sign of the heavy rain that ended a 3.5-year drought. And this number 3.5 is a symbolic number. It's half of 7. 7 is a number that bespeaks perfection, fullness. So we have the 7 sacraments, for example, or we speak of in a negative sense, of the 7 deadly sins, or of the 7 principal virtues, the 4 cardinal virtues, the 3 theological virtues. And so, half of this is a number, in a way, connected with evil. And in the book of Revelation, it speaks of a time in which evil is permitted, which is described as a time, 2 times, and half a time. So 1 plus 2 plus 1/2 is 3.5. And so this 3.5 years of drought was a chastisement for the sins of the people, and especially for the sins of its leaders. In that period where they were unfortunately turning to idolatry, above all their king. At least, this is the kingdom of Israel we're talking about here. Those 10 northern tribes that had separated from the era of King David, and the 2 southern tribes in the kingdom of Judah. And what brings these years of drought, these years of chastisement to an end, is a storm that comes from a little cloud which signifies Our Lady. So before the Incarnation, there was a period in which evil was permitted to dominate, in which grace was scarce, like rain in a drought. The water is especially water that comes from heaven, like grace, is an apt symbol, or water is an apt symbol of grace. It purifies, it gives life. Where there's water, things can grow, life can develop, and where water is lacking, there's only sterility. It's like a desert. And so, before the Incarnation, grace was not so abundant. Sin reigned because Adam, the head of the human race, had been unfaithful to God, and death drew its power from sin. Death was a terrible thing because it was the end. There was, especially in the early days of Israel's history, there were very few who even hoped in a resurrection, and so death was sort of the end, very final. Together with Adam's sin, which took from us the grace of original justice, it means that babies are born without the grace of God instead of with that grace that they were supposed to inherit if Adam had been faithful. Besides this, there are so many sins of individuals, especially in thinking of that time, these sins of idolatry, but there are sins of every sort in the world. And so this time in which sin reigned, in which the world was in the power of the devil, because man sinned, and when he sins, he makes himself a slave to the devil. All this came in a way to a sudden end, a sudden and surprising end. That began with a little cloud, began with a humble woman from the northern part of the Holy Land, began with Our Lady, who brought a downpour of graces upon the world, a torrent of graces. So in this pilgrimage, what we're going to do with our journey is to trace the story of our salvation in Christ. And this story begins with Mary, and so fittingly we begin here on Mount Carmel with that lush vegetation which prefigures the abundant divine life of Mary, Mary who is full of grace. And this grace drew her to absorb herself in prayer and so in this too she is like Carmel, a place of prayer, a place of contemplation. In fact, when the angel comes, how does he find the Blessed Virgin? He finds her all alone by herself and quite probably praying. According to traditions, the incarnation, like the birth of Christ, would have taken place around midnight. Very often, the God's saving action is connected with midnight. Also, the Passover, the original one leading out of Egypt, was a moment that took place at midnight. And so, when things are darkest, when we see perhaps no hope, then we must look to Our Lady. We must call upon her, and also try to follow in her footsteps. Our Lady is our hope, the hope of abundant grace, the hope of abundant life. Our Lady calls us to prayer and calls us to contemplate the mysteries of God, to adore God, who, especially for His mercy towards us. And this mercy, either in the sense of forgiving the sins we have already committed, or also, as it was in Our Lady's case, of giving the grace to not commit sins. That's a grace that's perhaps harder to recognize in our lives. But when we see that other people commit sins that we don't, what we should think of is that God has given us the grace to avoid them, and we should thank God for that. Because really, we shouldn't assume that it's because we're stronger than other people or inherently better than other people, but it is God's mercy that triumphs in us, and so we must praise His mercy in every moment, and seek to follow Our Lady in prayer, follow Our Lady in opening ourselves to the service of Christ, in making ourselves available to God, that He may do His will in us. Praised be Jesus and Mary.